You know how a certain smell can just zap you right back to a childhood memory? Or how a dog can somehow track a person for miles with just its nose? Well, today we are diving headfirst into the amazing science of smell, or olfaction, to figure out how our brains take this invisible world of chemicals and turn it into the rich, vibrant experience of scent. But let me just ask you this first. How important do you think your nose really is? I mean, seriously, it's so much more than just enjoying that first whiff of coffee in the morning. Your sense of smell is constantly working in the background, shaping your entire experience of the world in ways you probably don't even notice. For pretty much the entire animal kingdom, smell is king. It's absolutely essential. It's how you find food, how you know to run from a predator, and believe it or not, even how you might choose a mate. And for us humans, it's just as powerful. Like I said, a single scent can unlock a memory you thought was gone forever. It's a fundamental tool, for sure. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. The biggest challenge for any brain, for any nervous system, is figuring out how to crack the odor code. How does it turn all these floating smells into something that actually means something? So here's the heart of the problem. You know, with vision, light hits a specific spot on your retina. With touch, you know exactly where on your skin you're feeling something. But smells, they're just kind of floating around. They're a cloud of invisible molecules with no map, no coordinates. It's what scientists call a discontinuous chemical space. So that's the big puzzle, right? How in the world has evolution solved this problem? How does the brain take this completely jumbled, chaotic cloud of chemical information and turn it into something clean and organized, like the distinct smell of a rose? Well, it turns out that across hundreds of millions of years, evolution has come up with this incredibly elegant blueprint. It's a universal, four-part solution that you can find in almost every animal that has a sense of smell. It's pretty amazing. So how does this blueprint work? It really comes down to four fundamental principles. First off, you need a ton of different sensors. So animal genomes dedicate a huge chunk of their DNA just to making different types of odor receptors. Second, to keep things tidy, each sensory cell specializes. It follows a simple one neuron, one receptor rule. Third, and this is the really magical part, all the neurons that have the exact same receptor all send their signals to the exact same spot in the brain. And finally, you don't identify a smell with just one receptor. An odor is defined by the unique combination of receptors it activates, kind of like playing a specific chord on a piano. And what do you get when you put all these principles together? You get a system that takes that messy chemical cloud and organizes it into a spatial map inside the brain. The brain literally creates a location for a smell. It turns total chaos into perfect order. Now, to really see this in action, let's look at two very different animals who are both masters of smell, but who are separated by millions and millions of years of evolution, the humble fruit fly and the mouse. For a fruit fly, everything starts right here. Its sense of smell is all packed into its antenna, and these two little feelers near its mouth called maxillary palps. And if you could zoom in, you'd see they're covered in these tiny little hairs, and that's where the odor-detecting neurons live. In this diagram, this is a perfect picture of that third principle we talked about, convergence. See how the neurons on the antenna are different colors? Now, just follow the wires. See how all the red neurons go to one specific spot in the brain, and all the blue ones go to another? Those little target zones are called glomeruli, and they're the first critical sorting station in the fly's brain. Okay, so that's the fly. Now let's put its system right next to a mammal's system. This is where it gets really, really fascinating. Okay, just look at this for a second. The top diagram is the fly, the bottom one is the mouse. I mean, despite being separated by hundreds of millions of years, the basic wiring plan is almost identical. In both of them, neurons with the same receptor, the red ones or the blue ones, all meet up at a single dedicated glomerulus. It's just a stunning example of what we call convergent evolution, two totally different species arriving at the exact same brilliant solution. This quote really just nails it. This idea of convergence, it's the fundamental rule for organizing the sense of smell. Doesn't matter if you're an insect or a mammal, it is how the brain creates that crucial odor map. But, while the overall blueprint is the same, the actual building blocks are different. If we zoom in and look at the receptors themselves, we see that evolution used surprisingly different molecular tools to get to the same result. At the molecular level, the receptors have completely different origins. Mammalian receptors are part of this huge, famous family of proteins called GPCRs. and they work like a really sophisticated lock and key system. Insect receptors, on the other hand, evolved completely separately. They're much simpler, they basically act like a gate that just swings open when the right odor molecule bumps into it. And there's another subtle but really important difference. Mice are super strict about that one neuron, one receptor rule. But flies, they have this clever little twist. Most of their odor neurons actually express two receptors, one that's tuned to a specific smell and another one that's a universal co-receptor. It acts kind of like a master key that helps the whole system run more efficiently. It's a slightly different strategy, but it works just as well. So when you put this all together, what you end up with is just this incredibly elegant and powerful solution to a really, really complex problem in biology. This diagram really says it all. For both mammals and insects, it's a three-step process. You've got your first-order neurons out on the front lines doing detection. They all connect to a primary sorting center, the olfactory bulb for us, the antenna lobe for insects, and from there, that sorted information gets passed on to higher brain centers for interpretation, to figure out what to do next. So it all boils down to this really simple two-part logic. First, you encode the random chemical world into an organized spatial map. And then you decode that map to trigger a behavior. Go towards the good smell, run away from the bad one, or maybe just sit back and enjoy the scent of rain.
And that just leaves us with one final really cool thought. The fact that insects and mammals, separated by something like 500 million years of evolution, independently came up with the exact same logical solution for smelling things, well, that tells us something really profound about how brains solve tricky problems. It suggests that for some challenges, there's just an optimal, beautiful answer that evolution is going to find again and again. And it really makes you wonder, what other universal blue points like this are just waiting to be discovered?